Okay, I just wanted to put together a quick little video to help some of you, or all of you, I guess, with some of the parts of the process of writing. We're not going to delve a lot into formatting an organization. We're just getting into the practice of making sure we're getting the basics down so that you're ready for English 101. But there's a few things you can do that can help you be more successful in this way. The first thing is you have to kind of have a thought shift or a paradigm shift on the way we view writing a paper. A lot of the time, people look at it as, okay, just grab a bunch of stuff. I need to start writing. Take a few minutes to get ready. Spend a great big long time on the actual writing. Couple minutes after I'm done, and then I submit it. And that is backwards. In reality, you want to spend more time in the pre-writing so that you are prepared to spend a short amount of time actually writing and then more time editing and proofreading and polishing your work. The writing itself, when your preparation has been done correctly, the writing itself should be the shortest part of the process. So for me, that's why I plan ahead, have an outline, brainstorming activities, create an outline so that I know what I'm saying, what order I'm saying it in, things like that. What I'm going to focus on today, though, is the post writing. What people tend to do is they finish their paper and they're so glad that they finally got that last word that they needed to get in there that they kind of glance it over and submit. They don't even read it once, which is a terrible practice. So get out of that practice, because oftentimes there are silly mistakes in there that you would have caught if you'd just even gone over it once. But really, just a quick cursory reading one time is not enough to really produce your best work. So you want to have a system. But if you aren't used to revision and editing and proofreading, it can be overwhelming. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means and then give you just a quick and simple system. There are longer systems and more detailed systems for when you get into your further classes. You have longer to more detailed papers that you might want a longer, more thorough checklist. But I'm going to go quick over this, and hopefully you will have gained something from it. It is very useful in making sure you turn in your best work, because you don't want those little mistakes to get in the way of what you're trying to say, because they are very distracting. And regardless of how hard you try, it is easy to tell when someone has submitted something they haven't gone over. Because there are simple mistakes like doubled ands or sentence fragments that if they just given it a read over, they would have caught. So first, let's look at this. What is revision? First of all, revision means looking at your writing with a fresh eye. Revision encompasses everything from the pre-writing all the way through whenever you change or fix or improve something. So it's not just editing and proofreading, but it's going along and making sure that as you go, maybe you have a new idea or a different way of saying that, but it's looking at it with a fresh eye. It often entails rethinking what you've written and asking yourself questions about its effectiveness. Like, does this make sense? Does this make my point? And revision involves discovery as well as change. So it's not just picking, I don't want to say sad, I want to say tragic. It's also, maybe this isn't the direction I want to go with this, and I can switch that direction as well. So when we look at polishing your writing, one of the things you want to pay attention to is that you have some tools that you already know how to use them. Nothing irritates a teacher who's trying to grade something more than someone who didn't even bother to spend the 30 seconds to run a spell check. That is hard, because I feel there's this expectation for me as a teacher to go through and fix and edit and try to make it better and show you the places that you need to improve it. And I'm supposed to put in that time and effort to help you for someone that couldn't even run a spell check for 30 seconds. So that person didn't even want to put 30 seconds in, but I'm supposed to put in 30 minutes. What is the best advice when you are asking someone to help you with a paper, or you're sending it even to a friend or a colleague or even your teacher for help, is to make sure that your paper, before you get it to them, is the best you could do on your own. Because then they can fix things you wouldn't have caught, and instead of spending their time fixing stuff you would have gotten anyway if you'd have given it a minute. So make sure you do that. So first, study the advice that accompanies your word processing program. Look at the grammar and spell check. And then don't be afraid to ask for help. instructor, your writing lab tutor, friends, classmates, the people at your pathway meeting, that they have ideas. They might not always be the people who can tell you where all the commas go, but they know if something makes sense or not. So those are really great resources. Additionally, it is very important that you read your final draft several times. Put as much time between the last two readings as possible. So when you feel like I've got this, it's ready, it's perfect, if you can put some time between that time and turning it in, that would be great. This requires scheduling and time management. I understand because I've been a student, that doesn't always happen. But in a perfect world, or in the best case scenario, you're able to put as much time in there as possible so that you can schedule it. So you have, and we have that with the way your assignments are set up here. So you had your first draft and your second draft. So there's a lot of time to work on it to make sure that that final one is exactly what you want. For me, I sometimes say either, finish it on Friday night and look at it Saturday morning, or, maybe you finished it, go eat lunch, come back and look at it, whatever, because when you're tired and you're done and you just want to be finished, it's so easy to just, yeah, it's great, whatever, and you miss some of those careless errors. So remember that the typing errors, even the simple transposing of letters, can change the meaning of an entire thought, and often can bring unintended humor to something that you wrote. And because you typed the wrong letter, you put in the wrong word, and now it's an inappropriate word, and so it makes it a little bit more awkward. So watch out for that. This tip that I'm going to give you right now is probably the best tip you can use for helping your writing. Take the opportunity when you finish, when you are ready, and this is the one you want to submit, read your paper out loud to yourself. Your brain knows what you meant. It'll skip words, change meanings, fix things for you. Your ears will catch mistakes. They will know when you don't make sense, so pay attention to that. Additionally, you can also here's some tips for collaborative feedback. So when you're asking for help, or when you're in your Thursday class meeting and you're helping each other out, just some tips on how to do that. First of all, when you are the one offering feedback, when you are the critical reader, develop a constructive attitude. You're looking for ways to help. You don't necessarily have to start searching for enough mistakes. Just look for ways to help. Be clear and specific. I don't get it isn't clear and specific. This sentence right here doesn't make sense. There we go. And then one of the things we often do is we want to be nice. So, well, it's really good, but you can see 5 or 6 glaring errors, but I don't want to point it out. That's the broccoli in the teeth. You don't send them up for their photo shoot if there's broccoli in the teeth. So tell them, like, oh, that's not how we spell that, or this sentence is a little bit hard to understand. So make sure you do that. But encourage the writer. It's a really great topic, or you really address this well. It's organized well, those things as well. And understand that your role as a critical reader is to help them improve it. That doesn't mean you have to search out, I'm going to make sure I find 15 mistakes. Just look for things that specifically need help. So real quick before I end here, I'm just going to show a quick editing and proofreading checklist. You can use this one. I have a PDF of it as well if you want it. One of the things we can look at is, first of all, when you have a quick checklist, you want to look at mechanics. And here's just a list of things that you can look at. I capitalized the first word in every sentence. Go and check it. I capitalized all the proper nouns. Go and check it. So you go through the checklist and you make sure. And what I like about having a checklist is it gives you a system for proofreading and editing. Because for people that doesn't come to naturally, it's like when someone says, go study. When I was younger, okay, I'll look at my book for a little while, I guess. I didn't have a plan for how to accomplish that. So having an editing and proofreading checklist will help you have a plan for how to accomplish that. And it'll help you get rid of those little mistakes that take really good ideas and what should be good writing and make it sound younger, juvenile, or less developed than it actually is because you didn't catch those little mistakes. So you have the mechanics questions that go through the specific things you want to pay attention to. You also want to take a look at your grammar. Is each sentence a complete thought? Does it have a subject and a verb? We had a few sentences in some of our first drafts that didn't have all of that. So make sure you have no fragments in your work. And if that's something you find that you struggle with, then make sure you go and check every sentence for it. What people tend to do is look at the checklist and be like, yeah, 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 yeah. Don't go on memory. Go look at the paper and make sure it's there. This will take a while in the beginning, but as you practice it on these shorter, easier, less formal writings that you're doing, you'll become better and better at it so that you'll be more efficient when you get into the longer ones. You don't want to start trying to figure it out when you get into the longer ones because then it's long and painful. But these are some really good parts you want to paint, and this is just a basic checklist. And finally, you want to look at style. So it's going to look at varied lengths of sentences. Is it clear? Is it interesting? Does it make sense? Are you not being redundant and using and? Are you avoiding cliches? Do you know things with something besides every fiber of your being? Tell me something else. And then look for any extra words and make sure that it's not more complicated than it needs to be. And then finally, the last thing that I would check is make sure you look at an assignment description, because if it says it needs these 3 specific things, you make sure those are in there. A lot of times people say, we'll look at it and say, oh, it's a 3-page paper. Okay, well, I got 2.5, close enough. 2.5 isn't 3. 3 was the minimum. So when I make an assignment with my students in my other classes, my 300, my 200 level classes, and I say 3 to 5 pages and they make it 2, they're missing 33% of the paper before I even start grading. They have a D before I start to grade it because it was 3 to 5. 3 was the minimum. Additionally, though, or there's a redundant word, I've said additionally like 50 times. So there's an example of that. But one of the other things you want to pay attention to is when it says 3 to 5, 10 isn't better. And a lot of students will see that, like, oh, the assignment said 5 pages. Well, I'll do 10. See how awesome I am? That takes twice as long to grade, but it also means that you didn't stick to the parameters. And as a professional, in the workplace, that's important. You know, if your manager asks you to do 1-page work reviews of all of your 10 employees and you decide, I'm going to do 10 pages, he doesn't want to read 100 pages. He doesn't have time for that. So you want to make sure you meet the minimum. 500 words is 500 words. It's not 480. But don't exceed the maximum on that as well. So editing a proofreading checklist, make sure you read your papers out loud and take that time after you finish writing it to really go through it and polish it and make sure it's your best work so that you're sure that that's what you're submitting. So if you have any questions or want any help with that, I would be more than happy to help you. Thank you for viewing the video. I am sure it will be helpful.